What if the companies feeding you and your family were deliberately making you sick just to sell you the cure? Procter Gamble, one of the world's most powerful corporations, has turned this chilling cycle into a goldmine. By engineering foods that harm your health and influencing the very drugs you need to survive, they've created a system where your suffering fuels their profits. And the worst part? They've been perfecting this strategy for decades, with very little opposition from the regulatory bodies. But how is this even possible? Well, it starts with money, lots of it. So imagine you're P&G, and for decades you've invested millions of dollars into partnerships with organizations like the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics (A&D), the very group trusted to guide what Americans eat. But what if your generosity isn't as innocent as it looks? What if it's a way to score big endorsements for your products? You know, a little scratch my back, I'll scratch yours kind of deal to increase sales and generate more money. Well, that certainly is a bad omen, but the reality is even worse. Apparently, this generous strategy of yours isn't just about boosting profits. It might even come at the expense of the consumer's health. Yep, the same people who trust you to keep them healthy, you're cashing in by keeping them, well, not so healthy. The controversy about large consumer goods manufacturers selling and promoting unhealthy food products to the American public is a dilemma, one that has existed for ages. But in your case, as the imaginary CEO of P&G, the controversy around your company started sometime around the early 1900s. You just launched Crisco, a fancy all-vegetable shortening marketed as a healthier alternative to animal fat and a cheaper substitute for butter. And people bought it, literally.
Hey, that's fun.
Yeah, but that sure gives me an appetite, Loretta.
Come on. I bet my Crisco cooking will fix that up.
Fried chicken, my favorite.
Well, dig in. Crisco's what makes it so golden brown and delicious. Because it fries up chicken crisp as a country morning.
Real crunchy.
And no greasy taste either.
And Crisco has no cholesterol. How come no one thanks him?
Because we're all too busy eating.
Crisco will do you proud every time.
And just like that, Crisco became the darling of American housewives and bakers, knocking out its two biggest competitors in lard and butter. But you didn't just stop there. Oh no, you went full-on genius mode, introducing a new marketing strategy that was better and far more effective than your clever radio ads. You launched a cookbook, not just any cookbook, a free one packed with 615 recipes. And guess what all those recipes had in common? Crisco. This certainly wasn't a coincidence. It was a strategic plan by you and your marketing team to lure the American public to purchase more Crisco, and it worked. Crisco cans were leaving the shelves in droves. You were living the corporate dream. But all that economic success came at a cost, the consumer's health. You see, during your aggressive marketing campaign, you said Crisco was purely vegetable and everyone believed it. But somehow you conveniently forgot to mention that your main ingredient was cottonseed oil, the same stuff used in explosives. To be fair, you weren't really breaking any law because, at the time, nobody really cared about ingredient labels. Plus, other companies were already mixing cottonseed oil with beef fat to make lard. But you were too consumed by greed. So you took things to a whole new level by adopting a revolutionary production technique called hydrogenation. This chemical process turned cheap oil into semi-solid fat, perfect for cooking but toxic for the human body. It created trans fats, now linked to cancer, diabetes, obesity, and heart disease. Of course, you knew the risks, but chose profit over lives, flooding kitchens with Crisco and leading millions of Americans straight into a health crisis. Some concerned scientists tried to sound the alarm about the imminent danger, and as a responsible company that you claim to be, one would have expected you to own up to it and immediately cease the production of Crisco. But no, instead you decided to flip the script. Dr. Fred Mattson, one of your in-house scientists at P&G, presented some super shady clinical trials that claimed animal fat was the real villain causing heart disease. And then Ansel Keys, a physiologist from the University of Minnesota, made matters worse with his so-called diet heart hypothesis, which blamed saturated fats and cholesterol for heart disease. Although his theory was based on a small experiment and recent findings have indeed confirmed that it's completely wrong, nobody knew better at the time. So unfortunately, his hypothesis was adopted by many health professionals, including Paul Dudley White, an influential cardiologist and the personal doctor for President Dwight Eisenhower. When Eisenhower suffered the first of several heart attacks in 1955, White blamed it on the diet, and based on Key's diet heart hypothesis, he designed a new regimen for the president. Butter and animal fat were eliminated from the menu and replaced with alternatives that are low in cholesterol and rich in saturated fat. And of course, many Americans followed suit. They thought, if it's good enough for the president, surely it's good enough for me. So they ditched butter and lard, thinking they were saving their hearts. But little did they know that they were fast-tracking their own deaths. Within a few decades, chronic illnesses such as obesity, diabetes, and heart disease became the order of the day. In 1980 alone, about 5.5 million people were diagnosed with diabetes in the US. But thanks to Crisco and other hydrogenated oils, that number quickly surged, reaching 10.1 million people in 1997. Similarly, the number of deaths with heart failure as the underlying cause increased from 27,415 in 1980 to 46,484 in 1985. The clever Crisco marketing stunt had created a national health pandemic, and guess who was cashing in on all this misery? Pharmaceutical companies. Insulin, statins, blood pressure meds, you name it, they sold it, earning huge profits in return. And you? Well, after watching Big Pharma cash in on the misery of Americans, you decided to join the party. In 1999, your company P&G became a major distributor of Prilosec, a heartburn drug manufactured by AstraZeneca. Fast forward to 2003, Prilosec was available over the counter, and P&G's annual income shot up by 20%. Business was booming. Crisco was still flying off the shelves, and now Prilosec was a bestseller too. Life couldn't have been better for you as an entrepreneur, but there was a problem, a very big one at that. You see, the very trans fats in Crisco, the stuff you'd been pushing for decades, were a major cause of heartburn. And what's the go-to cure for heartburn again? You guessed it, Prilosec. Do you see the scam now? You've been playing both sides all this while. You created the problem with Crisco and offered the solution with Prilosec. Genius? Sure. Morally bankrupt? Absolutely. And the craziest part? Nobody stopped you, not even the regulators. As a matter of fact, they completely turned a blind eye to the situation, though the truth was right there hiding in plain sight. But why is that so? Well, let's just say it was far more profitable for these organizations to look away from your shady scheme. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not like these regulatory bodies earn direct commissions from the sales of Crisco and Prilosec. But out of its large purse, your company P&G, like many other consumer goods companies, made huge donations to various public health organizations and associations. Today, about 75% of the FDA's budget is financed by the pharmaceutical industry. And it's not even a new trend. It's been going on for decades. In fact, back in 1948, you approved a $1.7 million donation from P&G to the American Heart Association AHA, equivalent to about $20 million today. That donation transformed the AHA from a tiny group into a national powerhouse. But let's not kid ourselves. We know it wasn't just charity. It was a subtle way of scratching AHA's back with hopes that the organization would return the favor. Now, did you straight up ask the AHA to promote Crisco? Not officially. But somehow in 1961, AHA suddenly adopted the diet heart hypothesis. You know, the one that conveniently boosted vegetable oil consumption, including Crisco. Surely it has to be a coincidence, or maybe not. See, while this cozy arrangement lined corporate pockets, Americans paid the price. Chronic illnesses skyrocketed. Even President Eisenhower wasn't spared. He died of congestive heart failure in 1969. Many consumer goods manufacturers would eventually ditch cottonseeds for soybeans. However, the underlying problem of producing cooking oil through hydrogenation stuck around until 2015, when the FDA ordered food manufacturers to stop using artificial sources of trans fat in food within 3 years. This ban eventually became fully operative in December 2023. But while trans fats might be out, most fast foods are still loaded with shady additives and harmful industrial chemicals. And that's exactly where Robert F. Kennedy Jr. comes into the picture. Nominated as the Secretary of Health and Human Services by President Donald Trump, Kennedy is expected to play a significant role in the policies that will shape the American healthcare system for at least the next 4 years if he's confirmed by the Senate. Before now, Kennedy has been very successful as an environmental lawyer, and his advocacy for clean water and a total reform of the health sector has earned him a lot of plaudits. And if his reputation is anything to go by, the next 4 years could be a difficult ride for companies and public health institutions that have misled the American public into buying consumer goods that are dangerous to their health. He is keen to overhaul existing dietary guidelines because he believes they're outdated and heavily influenced by corporate interests, which prioritize profits over public health. Beyond this, RFK Jr. also plans to propose legislation that will promote transparency within the sector and eliminate lobbying activities. If achieved, these reforms will do the American public a whole world of good. For starters, they will reduce conflicts of interest in regulatory agencies, meaning that public health policies will henceforth be aligned to the needs of consumers rather than the interest of powerful corporations. But more importantly, it will restore trust in public health institutions and ultimately lead to a healthier American society. So, what do you think the public will do? Continue playing along, or will they finally demand the change they deserve? You see, the right foods may be hard to find, but on this channel, we take a deep dive into what not to eat, why, and the alternatives. If you enjoyed this video, we're pretty sure you're going to love this one as well.